to invoke Carl Sagan when he said extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And I think that anything that they're faced with, be it Scientology or be it religion or homeopathy or anything that requires that if someone is making claims for which you need to believe in something that you can't see or can't be empirically tested, then they need to consider that.
Thanks, Samantha. Let me bring Fraz Farhat in here now. He is a physics teacher here at Bacon College. This is his lab. Fraz, you're also a Muslim and you lead students in Friday prayers here. Do you see the value of teaching children in the Camp Quest way according to this rigorous, evidence-based approach?
Actually, I do. I think it's useful. We should develop the ability to be able to critically look at evidence and data and to make judgments based on their view of what they see around them and based on a scientific approach about the natural phenomenon around them.
Richard?
Would you perhaps also try to help children to see that science and religion are actually addressing rather different questions? I mean, science is trying to describe how things came about, but religion is trying to answer the question, is there any ultimate purpose why things come about? Would you bring this to the attention of your students?
I think fundamentally, yes. The remit of science is very different from the remit of religion. Science, or pure natural science, is really about what we observe around us. It can make no claim about God. In fact, God doesn't really come into the debate of science. Science can't prove, or for that matter disprove, the existence of God. Because we can't do that to God, we can't put him in a laboratory and test him. It's really beyond the scope of scientific rigour, which is the realm of religion.
Anthony?
Fraz, we're sitting in your laboratory, and it's called the Aristotle Laboratory, which I greatly like. Now, Aristotle thought that the world was at the centre of the universe and it was surrounded by a series of crystalline spheres. And modern cosmology, on the basis of much better instruments and a much better background body of scientific knowledge, says that it's a vast domain, many, many trillions of light years across. Very different picture from the Aristotelian picture. Now, you as a scientist would be able to give us a very eloquent account of the way that we test the relative merits of the Aristotelian view and the cosmological view. And we would do it by looking at the evidence, looking at the observations, reasoning about it, conducting experiments. Now, let me ask you this. Supposing a Martian were to come down to Earth and be presented with two documents, the New Testament and the Quran, how would the Martian choose between those two documents as to which is true and which isn't?
I think the Martian would have to do a lot of studying, first of all, as to the origins of both documents. Then he'd have to test the two documents with a couple of fundamental questions. First of all, are there any contradictions? Because what is from God cannot contradict itself. And secondly, can it be reproduced by anybody else? Thirdly, is there any kind of human factor that has come into the recording and the writing of these scriptures? If any of those three, the answer is yes, then obviously that cannot be then from God.
How would you be able to exclude the entrance of human factors into, for example, the compilation of the Quran?
By looking at the historical method by which it was recorded and documented.
Now, you're a physicist, and there's a story about the Prophet Muhammad going up to heaven from the Dome of the Rock, which is why it's such a holy place for Islam, to discuss with the Archangel about how many times a day Muslims should pray. As a physicist, what do you think about that story?
As a physicist, I don't understand it because there seems to be travelling at high speeds, vast distances in a very short period of time. And although theoretically that could be possible in a time machine or in other devices, I can't fully understand it as a physicist. And I'm not ashamed of saying that there's many things I'm not able to explain using my science. And it becomes a matter of belief.
Well, now we've heard Fraz's views, and Samantha Stein is still sitting next to him. Would you be happy to bring Camp Quest children to a science class here?
I'd be very happy to bring them to a science class here. I would like to think that Camp Quest children aren't easily swayed by whatever opinion they hear. I don't think that they're all so open-minded that they'll believe anything or consider anything. I would take issue with the fact that he's mentioned that religion explains things that science can't. If God supposedly intervenes here and actually makes a tangible difference to the world, then I don't see why that can't be tested by science. And that's part of the reason why I'm an atheist.
Well, thank you very much to Samantha Stein and to Fraz Farhat.